Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Monday, November 11th. It's Veterans Day. Happy Veterans to all those veterans out there. We appreciate your service and I want to thank you. I am your host, Tyler Wiemann at FlatTyler83 on Twitter and on your DFS sites. Now, let's dive into it. Come join us. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our video. Helps us a ton. Also, if you've never tried us out, go to the app stores, Android or iOS app stores, download Line Start app. And if you haven't tried us, you can get free 7-day trial. Come join us. Let's go. And let's get into this wonderful slate that we have today. We got a 5-gamer. All 5 games start at the same time, so it is a fun one. And one of these days that you can actually enter your lineups and then just walk away if you don't want to sweat or, you got to deal with family stuff and all that. It's these slates are the best for NBA because you don't have to sit on the computer or watch news all day long. At least that's my favorite, having a toddler running around the house. All right, let's get into it. Starting with point guard, 32% owned, De'Aaron Fox, 8,300. We got a 4.5-star alert score on him. I'm very interested in De'Aaron. I'm going to have a lot versus the Spurs, who just can't really stop the point guard. We know that De'Aaron can hit 50 plus, and he's been around 40s a ton. I feel pretty confident and think that he's in a good spot here. There is no Malik Monk, so his usage will be a little bit higher today than it generally is, just because Malik Monk does take a decent amount of usage when he's on the court, and they do share the court together a little bit. So more usage will be flowing to De'Aaron. Next, we got Donovan Mitchell, 8,100, 32% owned, 4.5-star alert score. This is a decent spot for Donovan Mitchell. I would prefer Fox, though, over the 2. Donovan Mitchell does have high ceiling, but what we've seen from, the last year and a half, 2 years or so, is that when the Cavs are healthy, his usage falls off a little bit. Plus, Darius Garland is shooting well and playing well right now, so I worry about the ceiling. Right now, his ceiling is probably 50. It's not the 60s that we're used to. So I don't mind having some. I'm going to have some, but I am going to be under the field a little bit. I think 32% is just too high for him in this spot. SGA. Good old Shy is just in a great spot. 3.5-star alert score, but my big thing here is that Chet's out. I think that he is just going to be asked to do a little bit more without Chet. This team isn't very big without Chet. So what happens, I think, is that Shy is going to be asked to rebound a little bit more, maybe play a little bit more, and just be overall more involved than he already is. Definitely interested in it, and we know he can hit, 60s, 70s, all that. So definitely interested in SGA, and I think he is my highest point guard right now. Do a little refresh to make sure nothing big changes here. All right, and then some more pivots. Amon Thompson, he is now a little chalky. It came out that Fred VanVleet is going to be out. Thompson could end up sliding in a starting role when he did it last year. He had huge ceilings. His prices got up to, 7s, 8Ks. And he's just such a high fantasy point per minute guy that any additional extra minutes to him just helps him out so much. I'm definitely in on this spot versus Washington. It's a great matchup. Give me some Amon Thompson. Next, we got Keon Ellis. Now, this is a little bit different one. He is low owned, and I don't quite understand why he is this low owned. He is only 4K. He played 28 minutes when Malik Monk went out last game. He is going to get minutes. Him and Herter have been eating into each other's minutes all season, and I think most likely outcome is Herter starts, Keon Ellis comes in as like the 6th man, plays kind of a hybrid Malik Monk role, and he gets 26 to 30 minutes, something like that, just like Malik Monk would. Now, he is nowhere as productive as Malik Monk, is, but the minutes are going to be there. He's only 4K, and we know if he gets it rolling, he can score. I'm interested in Ellis. The one thing is I also like Herter. I am trying to not play those two together. It's going to be one or the other because I think they just eat into each other's minutes too much and probably don't share the court, or if they do, only share the court for a limited amount of time. But only one of those two will likely be on the court at the end of the game if it's a close game. So I want those minutes, but definitely don't want both of them in the same lineup. Now, let's get over to point guard on DraftKings. All right, so on DraftKings, Reed Sheppard, 3,100, has jumped up to 27% owned. He has started getting some minutes, low teens-ish. It is expected that he plays some extra minutes today. It's either going to be him or Mon Thompson that are starting. If he's starting, 3,100, you're taking him. I would expect him to just jump up to the 18, 20-minute range, something like that, where he doesn't quite have enough ceiling for me to want to play him, but he is, an interesting, pretty much minimum price pick on DraftKings. Darius Garland, 7,100. He has the ceiling that I'm fine taking him here. He's been playing better than Donovan Mitchell lately, so he's cheaper, makes total sense. I don't absolutely love it, but I don't mind it either. Bulls haven't been good versus guards, so it makes sense to have one of Mitchell or Garland. Definitely probably would not have both, though. Next, Jose Alvarado, 6,200. Don't mind going to some Jose. He crushed it the last 2 games, but, the 4 games that he started before that, he's around 5-6x. So you're not getting that huge return on him, and that's kind of what I expect in this spot. I don't expect 40s out of him. Brooklyn's been tough versus the point guard, so I don't mind going to him, but I just don't think there's a ceiling outcome in this spot. So for that reason, I'm out. But Cleveland's tough versus guards too, and he did good versus Cleveland. It really comes down to, does he get 3 steals or does he get, 0 or 1? Because if he's at 0-1, he's probably not breaking 40s. If he's at 2+, then maybe he can get into the 40s. And shooting guard on FanDuel, Kevin Huerter, 44% owned, 4.4K, and 3.5-star alert score. I thought that was going to be a 4-star alert score, just all 4s across the board. Huerter's in a great spot. He was on fire, got 35 minutes last game. It is going to be him or Ellis getting the minutes, in my mind. I can go either way. Huerter is the higher owned one. Ellis is the pivot off of him, but it's a great spot and one that we should look to take advantage of with, either one of those guys. D. Mitch, we covered. Reed Sheppard, 3,900. We covered him too. I do side with Thompson over Reed, but hey, he's cheap and he's going to get some extra volume today for sure. Now, pivots. Dylan Brooks, without Fred VanVleet, I would expect him to be more like a 0.75 fantasy per minute guy and to get some extra minutes. So he is all over the board, 25, 27, 34, 31. His minutes are all over there. I would expect, we have him projected at 30 right now. I might push that more to 31.5, maybe 32 minutes in this spot without FEV. So I'm interested in having some low-owned Dylan Brooks versus Washington. It's a good spot. If his 3 is falling, it's going to work. If his 3 isn't falling, then it's not going to work. Lou Dort, I think his minutes are more solid without Chet. I would expect him in that 30, maybe 32-minute range. And he does enough, and he's good enough defensively to stay on the court. Times people have said he's the Harden stopper. I don't know about that, but I do expect him to play a decent amount in this spot. 4,900. He's hit, mid-30s 4 times so far. So he's paid off, 6x essentially, like 40% of the games. Definitely interested in some good old Lou Dort. Keon Ellis, we talked about. Jalen Green. Jalen Green gets a big bump up without Fred VanVleet. He goes over the last, year plus 10 games of this season or so. He's right around a 0.94 fantasy per minute guy. Without Fred VanVleet, he goes to over fantasy point per minute. Now, Thompson on the court would take some of that away, but I am very interested in this spot for Jalen Green now that FVV is out. I think those minutes go up. I think he's 34 plus minutes, possibly 35 minutes, and he can fill it up. When his usage goes up and he's scoring, it starts to get pretty interesting. He does have a huge ceiling, and I'm interested in this spot. Moving over to DraftKings at shooting guard, Lou Dort, Kevin Huerter, Reed Shepard, Amon Thompson. We covered them all. Donovan Mitchell, so small forward it is. Kevin Huerter and Terry Eason. Eason, 5,600. He is another Houston guy coming off the bench that is a high rate of fantasy points per minute. There's going to be extra minutes had in this game without Fred VanVleet. We're just not sure how it's going to shake out exactly. Eason totally could get extra minutes. If he does, he is a slam. If he doesn't get extra minutes, he's still in a good spot. We saw him put up 57 coming off the bench the other day. In 27 minutes the other day, put up 34. 25, he put up 28. He is a 1.2 fantasy per minute guy. When these type of guys get extra minutes, it's a huge fantasy outcome. So I'm interested in the spot, but it is also a spot we can pivot off because he is high owned. He may not get those extra minutes. And if he doesn't, then, he's priced accordingly and we don't really have to go there. So I think he is another big pivot point on this slate. I am interested, but I also don't want to go overboard on him. Brandon Ingram, 29% owned, 8,500. He let people down big time versus Orlando. If that happens again, I would be shocked. If people are a little skittish of hitting his name after that, I want to take advantage. Anytime there's no Zion, he gets a big bump up. There's no Zion. There's also no CJ McCollum, no Jordan Hawkins, no a lot of people. So definitely interested in some BI in this spot. Can he produce this time? It's yet, we're yet to see, but I think it's an interesting one. He will probably have to go against Dorian Finney-Smith, who's good defensively, but BI is good enough. He can beat anybody or pretty much anybody. And I don't mind going back to him a little bit. Pivots, Keegan Murray, 6,300, 20% owned versus the Spurs. 222 total, or 221 total. It's a spot that I keep going back to. The ceiling, he doesn't really have 50-point outcomes unless he's super hot hitting from the three. But mid-30s, 40s is a possibility all the time. And without Malik Monk, he's going to be asked to shoot a little bit more. I'm interested. He also likely plays a few more minutes. And look at this last couple games, 43 minutes, 39, 35, 39, 39, 39. Guy is on the court a ton. If he gets 39 minutes, I would be surprised if he doesn't at least hit value. Dylan Brooks, Lou Dort, we talked about. And we will move it to DraftKings, small forward, high owned, Eason, Dort, Huerter, Thompson, Jalen Williams. We haven't talked about it. 21% owned, 7.8K. With Chet out, you got to expect him to hit the boards a little bit harder. I'm interested in him. I don't know what Oklahoma's going to do exactly with their starting lineup, but they might just be forced to play small ball. And if that's the case, you could get Jalen Williams, the 4 and the 5 all night long, which, it's interesting. At least maybe a couple more rebounds going his way. But also, if that's the case, Zubac is going to deal with much smaller guys all night long, which is also very interesting. We'll get into that later. But I don't mind some Jalen. All right, power forward on FanDuel. Terry Eason, Brandon Ingram, DeMar DeRozan. I don't mind going to DeRozan. 7,800 for a guy that's flirting with 40, the entire season is fine. He hasn't been producing at the rate he was with the Bulls. He was over a fantasy point per minute with the Bulls. Right now he's 0.98 with, or 0.97 or so with the Kings, which makes sense. It's a new system. He's trying to gel with other stars, but I do expect throughout the season for him to be slightly over a fantasy point per minute. The other thing is he's always been a guy that has played big minutes. Without Malik Monk, I think those big minutes are pretty much secure, so I'm fine going here, but I'm not going to go super hard on the spot. He does at least have a ceiling, which is interesting. Keegan we talked about, and another pivot, 6K Alex Sarr. So I do think Sarr is pretty expensive at 6K, but he's a 1.27 fantasy per minute guy over the last 5 games. Now, he's only playing 25 minutes a game. If something happens where he jumps up to 30 or 32 in this spot, he starts to look super, super interesting and has a giant ceiling. Even playing his 25, he has a ceiling. And 27 minutes, he got 40 the other day. We've seen him, hitting mid-30s and 23 minutes. So I don't think the minutes are too big of an issue here. And if he's playing well and it gets a couple extra minutes, there's a real nice ceiling here that I don't mind taking advantage of at low ownership. Power forward on DraftKings, Eason, Jalen Williams, DeMar DeRozan, Cam Johnson. We talked about them all, so let's move it over to center. Alperen Sengun, 29% owned, 7,900. Look, 7,900 is cheap, but there's more we got to talk about here. Jock Landale is out. Steven Adams is questionable. If Adams doesn't play, Sengun has the chance of one of those 34, 35-minute nights. When those happen, those are his big games. Most of the time this season, he's been in mid to high 20s with, a couple ceiling games of 30, 34 minutes, 35 minutes. If Adams is out we already have Landale out, I think there is more of a path for Sengun to play that 34, 35 minutes, which makes me much more interested in. If Adams is in, I don't know if that path to that type of big minutes is there, so I may pull off him a little bit. But I'm interested, and I'm going to just wait to see what's going on with that injury report. Nick Claxton, 23% owned. I love this spot for Claxton. Starting in the last 3 games, minutes 27, 28, and 32. The dude's a beast, and he's going against the Pelicans, who haven't been great inside. And, there's no Zion there either, so he should be hitting the boards hard in this game. Then if he can give you a 20-10 game, which is totally in the realm of his possibilities, he's crushing. And I think there is the chance of that in this spot. So definitely interested in some Claxton. Pivot-wise, we talked about Alex Sarr already. And then getting over to DraftKings, we got Sengun, 7,900, and Domantas Sabonis at 9,500, 19% owned. I'm definitely interested in Sabonis. Good old Saboner can hit 60s, and he's 9,500. So I don't know. I wouldn't be interested in this spot for him. Going against Wemby, he's going to play at least all the Wemby minutes, and he's almost a lock for 36 a night. So definitely interested in some Saboner. That'll do it for us today, guys. I will be back in a little bit with the NFL DFS breakdown for Monday Night Football, and then back tomorrow for more NBA. You guys have a good one. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.